He kicked
He
him.
kicked him. Romero was on the ground and he hooked his leg around and kicked him on the back of the leg. And Cole went down, but obviously that is not deemed a sending off.
Is it still 1-0?
It's still 1-0.
Okay, right.
Still 1-0.
Not for the first time, Chris, in my time working with you. You're looking slightly perplexed.
Yeah, because of the Romero thing. I'm glad I saw it again, because when I first saw it, I think he did absolutely lash out. But, I mean, it wasn't even it was such a mild, meek kick in the end, which probably saved him. But, if you're going to get sent off, kick them properly. That would be a bad way to get sent off.
90s hard man Chris Sutton on the Monday Night Club.
Just kick them properly.
Just kick them properly. It's what it was like back in his day. Your thoughts?
I thought it should have been at least yellow. I don't think you can just kick out at someone. I mean, even though it probably doesn't look anything, that's where I think our discussion before is like, what is the rules? What line do we kind of draw?
Well, that's a good question actually. So I would agree with Steph. I think that's probably a yellow. I don't.
Oh, well,
don't
you got
think
it.
That's a red.
Have you got your password working?
I've had to change my password twice, chap. It's been a nightmare.
Do you go with the same kind of things for your passwords? I'm not inviting you, obviously, to say what they are.
Do I want to reveal that on the radio? No.
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
I have now changed it to something so random that I don't remember what it is. So I'm going to change it next time I use the app as well. It is a yellow, but can VAR go back and award a yellow? I don't know if it can.
No.
So that's probably why he's missed it. No question. The referee sees that. That's definitely at least a yellow card. But I don't think VAR can tell the referee you've got to go and book Christian Romero. So Christian Romero doesn't get booked.
Let's move on to talking about Burnley, who set on once over the weekend. They've become the first side in the Premier League era to lose 6 home matches in a row to begin a season. Now, if you want some context to that, when they were relegated last time, 21-22, they lost 8 home games all season. What's happening here, Chris?
What's happening at Burnley? Well, it's brand of football. They actually made a lot of changes over the summer. They brought young, very young, and Vincent Kompany has his way of playing, and it's a very brave way of playing. It's expansive, it's high risk, and the fixtures couldn't have been unkinder to them at the start of the season. I think that's really gone against them, albeit you have to play everybody twice, of course. But I worried about them at the start of the season because of this, because they do have a lot of young players, and because of the brand of football. If you're just offered a little bit against the best teams, you get exploited.
Let's just go back to Tottenham. Listen, good luck picking the bones out of this one again. John Southall.
Well, I think they've equalised here. Tottenham won. Chelsea, no, they haven't. Caicedo from 20 yards, thought he'd scored. It was a fantastic strike into the bottom left-hand corner, but Mark Schwarzer, the flag was up. Well, Caicedo wasn't offside, but obviously someone else was. It was just a melee. Spurs had many opportunities to clear the ball. They couldn't clear it. Chelsea were closing down. We'll see it now on the replay. I mean, Sterling has a big touch. There's a chance for him to score. You can see now as the ball comes out into the box. Well, Sterling's standing in offside position, isn't he? And there's a player down. Jackson possibly as well, and the goalkeeper. That's possibly what it is. Maybe Jackson. That's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise there's no one else in an offside position. What a ridiculous 27 minutes.
Well, I tell you what, in all of that, Mickey van der Ven had a massive swipe, missed Sterling, who went over, and Romero absolutely crunches someone. Enzo Fernandez here, and goes over the ball with his studs into Fernandez's ankle. And so at the moment they're now this could turn out to be one of the longest nights of our lives. Everybody.
Well, I think he's offside.
Jackson's offside, and he jumped over the shot.
Yes. Do they check for a penalty as well? Well, they will, I'm sure. 2 Argentinians
and maybe a red card.
Yeah, that could be a problem for Spurs. come back to us in 15 minutes.
Well, we'll leave you faded up so we can hear the noise of the crowd as they react to all of this, because none of it will be on the big screen whatsoever. I mean, this kind of highlights what we were saying before, doesn't it, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, did you say what day it is today? Is it now Tuesday? I don't even know what the score is in this game. There's so many decisions. I mean, is that a spiritual offside?
What's that, Rory?
So I would say spiritually that is not offside. That's a really good example of it. Like when you were a kid thinking of what offside was, is that what it looked like?
Right, so that's been given, John, as offside. Yes?
So that's offside, yeah,
right.
That has been given as an offside. So now, do they go back and check for a potential penalty, a potential sending off? Still on the big screen it says checking disallowed goal, so they haven't got to that part yet.
And Michael Oliver's obviously being spoken to, because we can see him talking. He's got a whole variety of players around him from both captains there, Son and Reece James. They're now checking possible penalty for this. They're looking at the wrong one. They're looking at the Mickey van der Ven one first of all, who's just missed Ball and Sterling, and now they're on to Romero on Fernandes.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to be a penalty, surely.
He's going to be gone. I can't see anything else. It has to be a penalty and a red card. I mean, it's a silly challenge.
Chris?
I think it's a penalty, but I think that he will say his follow through is a natural follow through. He's been booked already.
No, he didn't get booked. I don't think.
Did he not get booked for the first one?
No. I don't think that's I mean, he's going through.
Yeah,
he wants to go through.
How I can't quite see how high it is. Is it?
Well, is that not similar to Curtis Jones that got sent off against?
Yeah, I think he's in trouble.
Now what's happening, John?
He's going to the screen. He's going to have a look. The referee,
He's off.
Michael Oliver's going to have a look, so he could well go. I think it will definitely be a penalty, that's for sure. So he's going over to the far side of the pitch.
When the ball bobbled up, you could see it in his eyes. You could see what he wanted to do, Romero. You could see he wanted to go in there wholeheartedly. And I think he has to get a red card. Definitely a penalty, and I think that's a red card.
Michael Oliver's gone to the screen, which has begun on the freeze frame of Romero's boot halfway up Enzo Fernandez's shin.
That's a leg breaker.
And Romero's now walking over towards the screen, which I don't think is going to help his cause, really, in this.
Yeah, they're showing it again.
You don't want to see that. I mean, that's a bad challenge.
That's a horrible challenge.
That is a really bad challenge.
Yeah, Mauricio Pochettino just goes and sits back down in his dugout. I'm sure if he doesn't get a penalty and a sending off, he will be pretty livid with that. I think he's calling Romero over, is he? Oh, he's calling Son over.
Well, he's probably just explaining to him what he's doing.
Tell him what he's going to do. Romero's over there now with him as well. The captain and the Argentinian centre-back are both over there with Michael Oliver, the referee. He's explaining what he's going to do. I think we're going to see a red card coming out of his pocket very soon, and I think he's going to point to the penalty spot as well. He points to the spot and he produces the red card, and Tottenham are down to 10 men. Christian Romero has been sent off.
Yeah, I think he had no alternative other than to give a red card. I mean, that's a clear red card. That's a bad, reckless challenge. Doesn't need to. It's a silly challenge. I mean, not only does he obviously put his team in a difficult situation, but that is terrible. I don't know what they're complaining about.
Well, on the big screen, they've just shown the challenge, which I'm not sure is a great idea, and that hasn't helped with the fans around the stadium. Reece James has just has got the ball on the penalty spot, so he's waiting to take it. Has he gone off yet? Has Romero gone off? He's still walking backwards.
Michael Oliver's now lifting his own leg up and rubbing down his shin to show to Son where Romero's boot connected with Fernandes.
Well, Romero's on his way off. He doesn't agree with the decision. He doesn't look happy. His manager's just standing on the edge of his technical area as well. They're going to make a change. Tottenham's Eric Dyer is going to come on as Christian Romero finally makes his way off the pitch. His manager just taps him on the back, and Eric Dyer comes on, and Brennan Johnson, by the look of things, is the player who has been sacrificed, so he has gone off. And eventually, I mean, how much added time are we going to have in this half? But eventually the penalty is going to be taken by Cole Palmer, who scored 2 Chelsea goals since he arrived and had such a big impact at the club. Both of them have come from the penalty spot, and he'll take it in front of that massive wall of fans behind the goal, the wall of Tottenham supporters. You can hear the boos probably around the stadium. Vicario in all light pale blue, bouncing up and down on his line. I mean, what an eventful opening 34 minutes to this game. And Cole Palmer will take his time, steps up on his left foot, hits the post, and it goes into the far corner. Of course it does. And Chelsea equalised. He puts his finger to his lips to say be quiet around the stadium, and Chelsea have equalised. Cole Palmer from the penalty spot. Tottenham won, Chelsea won. It just snuck in.
I tell you what, Vicario's so close to making a fantastic save. Then he gets his fingertips onto the post, goes the right way. Yeah, definitely. Almost makes a wonderful save.
What a game of football. Tottenham won, Chelsea won.
So I reckon that was around 7 minutes.
Yeah,
that you've managed to fill for,
and we've probably got at least another 5 or 6 from earlier incidents in the half.
This was meant to be a 3-hour Monday night club to cover the whole of Tottenham Chelsea. It may be 3.5 hours. Am I allowed, Rory, to feel an element of sympathy towards Michael Oliver at the moment? It's not a very easy game to referee. This.
It's not. I can't speak to the first 15 minutes. Obviously, I'll sort
of
it out. But after that, it has been complicated. Although what I would say is that sending off is, and we should stress this when it happens. That's VAR working. That's exactly what VAR is for. It's for those incidents that the referee wouldn't have seen in the sort of fullness of the play, to give them a chance to go back and make sure that egregious things are punished. So that is a success for VAR. It's a shame that it's taken a week and a half to get there, but ultimately they have got the right decision. Romero should have been sent off. It was a really bad tackle, and Michael Oliver's done his job.
Yeah, I think for me, as soon as I seen it kind of reminded us of the Curtis Jones one, Tottenham Liverpool, and I think even though he's got the ball, you're kind of going over the top and you're probably putting your opponent in danger, but I think we all kind of probably knew what the outcome of that was going, and yeah, that is VR work, and one of the only times probably this weekend.
I mean, in all of this, Chris, there is an element when what we haven't done is actually talked about players' behaviour in all of this without sounding like, an old man in all of me, that is, not you, in all of this. There is an element of players not making it very easy for the officials, and it's getting worse.
Yes, I mean, let's get it right. Romero, his behaviour was idiotic. He had the slight kick out just minutes before, and I really don't know what he's thinking. A World Cup winner, he knows exactly what he's trying to do. There's another one.
Let's go. There's not another one though, is there, John?
No, of course there's not. Jackson has just put it in, but he was offside. I think we can safely say that.
Yeah, it was Sterling as the ball gets played through.
Yes.
We'll see it on the replay now. He's a couple of yards offside in the initial play, and then he plays the ball square across to Jackson, who was onside, and puts it in the back of the net, but it's offside.
Jackson fished it, which he hasn't done much this season, and it came from Sterling, who was offside, so it remains 1-1.
Just been told we're not putting this show in for an award. Rory.
The one thing I would say, and Chris has talked about the way the players behave a lot on this subject, and sometimes he makes quite good points, but ultimately we spend all of our time saying they've got this one wrong, they've changed the rules, no one knows what this rule is, no one knows what that rule is, look at where's the consistency, where's the common sense, all this stuff. The players are not immune to that, and ultimately I don't think that PGMOL at the moment can complain about a lack of credibility, to be perfectly honest. I think there is a degree to which they will not show any real accountability for mistakes that they make. There is a kind of tone to a lot of what they do that is grating for fans, and I imagine for players. And also the whole thing has created so much uncertainty that nobody really knows what's going on in terms of what rules are meant to be being applied, and what's the initiative this week. Are we clamping down on shirt pulling or swearing? What is it? It changes every single time. What was the one at the start of the season? Time wasting.
Time wasting, yeah.
Now half of them are doing time wasting, half of them aren't. Because sometimes you get, as you will with this game, 3.5 hours of extra of added on time, and sometimes you get 2 minutes if the referee's got to get off. It's hard to see. I don't really understand why it happens in some games and not in others. I think there genuinely is a credibility problem that the players, some of them will obviously be trying, they're chanting their arm, they're trying to seek an advantage. That's what they're employed to do. They're there to win. But also, if they are feeling that there is a grey area that they can exploit, so the referees have created it.
Can I just say, I think that's a great point. And, we saw at the weekend George Baldock diving for a penalty. So while there's this outrage at the referees and their level of performance, that every week we see, virtually every week we see cheating, players diving in the Premier League, and that's not helping. And yet you don't hear managers calling out players for that. I'm not saying I don't know what goes on, but managers will be congratulating players for winning.
But also, I didn't think you were allowed to surround the referee. I mean, Michael Oliver there went to the screen, called Son over and Romero, explained it, showed the red card, and then other players then get involved.
No, I think we spoke before the show, Mark. I think normally the captain is the only person that can go and speak to the referee, and sometimes that's not even allowed, which is beyond me. When you come in and the referees come into the clubs and they have the meeting about how they want players to behave. But I think it probably just has to work a little bit of two ways as well, in terms of you've got to be realistic. I think when there's a decision against you, of course emotion takes over, and I understand that that's sending off, and I think the way that Spurs players acted, I think it is not in what we want to see the game to be. I think it's just like, okay, accept the decision and get off the pitch. But at the same time, I think there's got to be that kind of understanding that, of course, obviously it means a lot and there's so much at stake. But when 2-3 players are surrounding the ref, apparently you get caution for that. But some days you see it, some days you don't.
I mean, I think if you're playing VAR new rules bingo, I think we may have just had the full house, John Southall.
And Postecoglou has joined the party. He has picked up a yellow card. As such, here comes Son just on the edge of the penalty area, and Chelsea will clear this one away. Mark Schwarzer.
Yeah, you don't see Ange lose his cool too often, but I think it was a pretty well way of losing his cool. It wasn't over
a realistic way.
Yeah,
realistic
I think so.
way of losing
realistic. Yeah. It wasn't like running down the touchline, yelling abuse or anything like that. He probably just gave the fourth official a bit of an earful.
Yeah, he's still standing very calmly, and as he always does in his technical area. As the score, just to remind everybody, is Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1.
Let's go back to James Madison has just gone down in the penalty area, but I'm not 100% sure why. Let's just go back to talking about Burnley. We'll go back to Tottenham if anything happens from Madison go down in the area. I can't even remember who was talking about Burnley, so I'll start with you. I'll come back to you, Rory, because we were talking about the signings that they made, and actually Sander Berge at 25 is their oldest signing this summer. So there's plenty of excitement there. There's plenty of players for the future there, but we were kind of saying something similar about Southampton around this stage last season.
Yeah, there's no question they've got a lot of very talented players, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for the way they came up, for kind of sticking by Kompany's vision of how he wants to play, for allowing him to kind of stand or fall, I guess, by his beliefs. That's all the stuff that you should be doing. It speaks really well of him and of the club. And I mean this in the nicest possible way. Is there a slight air of a development team about Burnley? That they play really nice football, but there's not that kind of ruthless cutting edge that you need, that grizzled kind of veteran by any means necessary type thing that you need. I'm basically thinking of
grizzled veteran.
I'm just thinking every time I watch Burnley, I kind of think, do you know what they could really do with Ashley Barnes? That's basically my view on Burnley.
Vincent Kompany, Chris, has sort of, I mean, in a much nicer way, said that in that the solution is good coaching. The solution is better players. I'm not saying we need better players. It's players getting better. These are the foundation.
Yeah, and it's look. I think we all admire what he is trying to do, but at this moment in time, it is probably hard for some of the players to keep faith in what they're actually being told or how they're being told to play this expansive style, because it hasn't worked. And that's the importance of getting a foothold in the Premier League where you actually really believe in the brand of football and the style of play. And the longer that goes, I know they beat Luton away, didn't they? But I think if you look at their last couple of defeats, they are so damaging away at Bournemouth, home to Crystal Palace. Bournemouth, who have been pretty sort of woeful all season, heaven knows what their identity is. I think, I'm not so sure the manager understands what their identity is. And then you have Palace. If you're a Burnley fan, you're thinking they are real opportunities for us as a team. And I think Burnley dominated the possession, but they just seem, with the greatest possible respect, a bit naive, a bit green. They're not, Rory's sort of grizzled, sort of battle hard, or veterans, whatever he used. Crystal Palace, Roy Hodgson did a job on him, as they do to a lot of teams, in the fact that they are so disciplined, so well organised, so boring in the nicest possible way. But you sort of know what you're going to get, and with Burnley at this moment in time, they're trying to be expansive, but I do think there always comes a time with young players, especially, where they possibly have or are going to lose a bit of faith in what they're being told in terms of their brand of football and the way they're being or the way they're playing, because they have been ruthlessly exposed this season.
Right, come back to that in just a second. So James Maddison went down at one end of the pitch but got up and was okay, I think. But at the other end of the pitch for Tottenham, John Southall?
Yeah, Mickey van der Ven has pulled his hamstring, and it looked so painful. He was chasing back with Nicholas Jackson, and it just went. And you could see him grab the back of his leg, and he is now hobbling off. So they've lost both centre-backs. Romero sent off, and now Mickey van der Ven is hobbling off with a hamstring injury around the side of the pitch. Both players have been so crucial for Tottenham this season, both ever present. Højbjerg is just about to come on as well, so they've lost a couple of key players. Is that Madison going off?
Yeah.
Madison's hobbling off as well. So what a first half this has been for Tottenham.
Yeah, Madison did his ankle, didn't he? He did his ankle running into the box, no contact whatsoever, and he's struggled since then. So yeah, and then obviously Van der Ven, that's horrible. He's actually being carried off.
Oh, you could just see the pain as he held his hamstring. So he's gone off, and then literally in the same minute, Madison has gone off as well. So three of their key players, and you spoke before the game about the depth of their squad. Well, it's going to be tested. 1-1, 12 minutes added on.
12, okay.
12 minutes.
12 minutes, that will take us up to...
Plus that injury as well, so put another 3 on that.
Okay, Rory...
10-15 finish.
Rory, you look like you were coming in.
Well, I was going to say something about Burnley, but
yeah.
3 fixtures after this one for Spurs are Wolves, Villa, City, is that right? Is that what we said?
Hang on. Yeah, Wolves, Villa, City, yes.
So that's no Romero for any of them, just he'll be banned.
Yeah. Well, there's no Van. I mean, I'm no medical expert, but I'd be surprised if Van der Ven's back.
And obviously, it's hard to tell what's on with Madison, but this is now a test of their.
What are you laughing at, Chris?
This has been a
well, just the fact that you didn't have to tell everybody you're no medical expert.
No, that's true. That's true.
I mean, just watching this on the monitor here, Tottenham trying to play a high line with Eric Dyer. That's where he plays this brand of football. They are fearless, but down to 10 men, this high line, he needs the right personnel. But Van der Ven has gone in and been phenomenal. He has pace. Romero is idiotic, but I've said many times, Postecoglou's team, the best 2 players in his team have to be the centre halves. They have to be the centre halves because they get exposed time and time again. So this is going to be a tricky period.
And this is your position, Steph. And at the moment, his centre halves, because Van der Ven has gone off, Dyer has now come over to the left centre half position. Emerson Royal is now the right centre half, which is evidently an untried central defensive partnership. And they are still. They are really high, aren't they?
And they really believe this way of play, which is crazy, because we were obviously on about it in terms of different players bring different attributes, and does the system kind of fit them attributes for this? We're speaking about Eric Dyer, who probably he does lack in pace. Does this suit him? Probably not, but I think now for Tottenham, I think we spoke about at the beginning of the show in terms of this will be a test for Tottenham in terms of this game alone, but not with the injuries to pretty much the spine of the team and who have done so well this season.
And if you are just joining us, they are down to 10 in this game, are Tottenham as well, with Christian Romero sent off. Just back to the point on Burnley, do you think it will be hard for the young players, Steph, to keep their confidence up in this situation?
Yeah, of course, because I think with the way that Vincent Kompany has their team playing, and I think, it's a brand of football that is quite popular and everybody's trying to play this open, expansive game, but ultimately when you're in the Premier League it's ruthless, and no matter if it is a good performance. I think you take the Palace game, I think Roy Hodgson come out and said Palace got the 3 points where the performance probably didn't warrant that, but at the same time in the Premier League you don't have that much time to allow these players to develop as quick as possible, and even though they are a young team, do they lack a bit of experience at this moment in time? Probably yes.
Steph Hawson, Chris Sutton, Rory Smith on the Monday Night Club this evening. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1. They're in 12 minutes of stoppage time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We'll be back to John Southall shortly. Now, last week on the show, with 2 minutes of the show to go, Adam Crafton dropped in that he believes the Premier League should be reduced to 18 teams. It wasn't ideal, although admittedly it was more ideal than when Micah ended the show with his dog anecdote, but it did leave us only 2 minutes to discuss that subject. Richard Allen sent us in this email: the case for reducing the size of the Premier League is overwhelming. Chris is wrong. It's about restoring balance. It's not about elitism. Premier League teams constantly complain their schedule is too busy. Many Premier League players also play internationals and they suffer injuries, fatigue or both as a result of overplaying. The difference in standard between the top and the bottom of the league is extreme. Look at the stats based on points per game for top and bottom clubs across all leagues and historic seasons. And we won't solve it all by waiting for the good clubs to leave for a Super League. That's my 2 penneth, says Richard Allen on that email. Rory, your thoughts?
I mean, I think there is a fairly self-evident argument that reducing to 18 is sensible. The French did it this season. Germany's obviously always been 18. It reduces the number of games, which is an issue that players everywhere are concerned about.
Hang on, they're expanding this league, aren't they?
Yeah, but the players don't want them to do that, Chris. So that you can't have a go at the... This really annoys me on this subject. So every time any elite player, top 6, top 7 player comes out and says, we play too many games, everyone says, well, you're expanding the Champions League, as though like Virgil van Dijk is in charge of that decision.
Yeah, but these are the players who are playing for the big clubs.
They are the players.
So they can say that, they can moan it, but in reality, it happens. They can moan, as players have always moaned about how many games there are. Sorry, there's another incident on my monitor.
So you're like a minute ahead of me, so I'm following your lead as to what's about to happen.
Let's just go to John Southall, because there was a claim for a penalty, but I don't think they'll look at that.
No, I don't think so. It's a little push on Sterling. It was minimal, if any, at all, as he went down in the penalty area. But no, they haven't looked at it. Play continues. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1.
Okay, Rory.
So just quickly, the earlier argument: Raheem Sterling has dived there. He should be booked for that. That's not helping refs. It's not helping Michael Oliver.
It's not. Rory, back to the reduction.
There is an argument that you should reduce the lead to help with fixture congestion. I take Chris's point that they are currently expanding the Champions League. They're creating the Club World Cup, that the elite players are being asked more and more. This whole thing is an entertainment product, and elite players have a right to think, I want to be able to do my best in every single game, and the number of games I'm being asked to play is counterproductive to that. So maybe we should look at reducing the lead. I don't think there's any reason not to on grounds of tradition. The top flight, Chris, when you started playing, had how many teams in it?
22.
Yeah.
22. That's the traditional number of teams in the top flight of English football. We reduced it to 20 for the Premier League. There's no reason we can't reduce it to 18. My caveat would be, I wouldn't reduce the Premier League to 18 teams. I'd increase it to 36 and split it into 2 divisions of 18. That's what I'd do.
And
because that way you spread more of the money across 2 divisions of the Premier League, and that then reduces the massive.
What? Say that again. I was watching the game. I need to write that down. So you would what?
I would increase the Premier League to 36 teams and split it into 2 divisions. So you'd have Premier League 1, 18 teams, Premier League 2, 18 teams, then whatever you want to call the Championship. Partly because that's how.
So it's just nearly the same.
Nearly the same, but it means more clubs get the money from the TV deal. That's the big problem in English football, is that.
But you've just used the Mikel Arteta 2 number ones argument where you can't.
No, I'm not pretending it'd be the same level. I'm saying that it'd be first division, second division in the same way.
Yeah, so it's just the same. So that's just I sort of don't.
Except you get 36 teams on. You get 36 teams under the Premier League umbrella, which means they all get access to the Premier League's TV money, which helps with their finances.
And the big teams or the bigger clubs will vote for that, will they? Will they? No, but exactly.
Oh, well, you weren't asking me what the bigger clubs would do. You're asking me what I would do. I think there is an argument for reducing it to 18. Yes.
Would that then help those outside the 36, if they came into the 36, be more competitive?
I think it could do. Yeah, you'd have to do a lot more work than I've done on the finances. But I think that the big issue is that you get teams coming up who are not in a position to compete. And Luton did brilliantly yesterday probably should have beaten Liverpool, and that can happen in the course of one-off games, and it does every time. Burnley will take a scalp at some point this year. Sheffield United will. But I think overall, it's really difficult for those teams, especially teams without parachute payments, to come up and build a squad that can compete in the Premier League in any meaningful way. We have seen teams do it. Brentford have done it brilliantly. Leeds did it for a bit. Brighton, obviously, the standard bearers for it. But it is increasingly difficult and increasingly rare. And I think you need to look at ways of reducing those cliff edges. And I think you can probably solve the problem of cumulative fatigue over games while simultaneously getting into the economics that are the root cause of English football's problems.
3 up, 3 down. 3 up, 3 down.
Well, how would you do it to get 18? I don't know what the French did in the summer. Oh, you
mean
we
don't always have to copy the French model.
No, you could do something. You mean if you were to reduce it to 18, how would you do it?
Yeah.
I think you'd have to do what's the maths? 5 down, 2 up initially, and then
once we get into the rhythm. Once we get into the sort of rhythm, what would you do?
I would copy the German model and have 2 teams go down automatically, and then
two down, 2 up,
and then a playoff between the third bottom and the third in the second division.
The third bottom and the Scottish model of the winner.
The Scottish model, yeah.
Where they've just had another VAR check for a red card. John.
There was a possible elbow from James on Udogie. Both went up for the ball. VAR looked at it, and it's not a red card. No sending off. Still 1-1.
And there was a melee as well.
Yeah, we've had a melee as well. Colwell and Sarr were squaring off against each other. Jackson was booked for a bad challenge. Colwell tried to get the ball off Sarr. They both started pushing and shoving, and they both got yellow cards. Ridiculous.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, I watched a brawl between England and Tonga in the Rugby League on Saturday. That was a brawl. That was more than a melee. I can tell you that. You'd be surprised if this stays 11v10, wouldn't you, Mark?
Yeah, I would be very, very surprised, I have to say. I mean, Chelsea obviously having the man advantage, haven't taken advantage of that just yet. Spurs are fighting. I mean, Colwell just there in that melee we were talking about. I don't know why he was involved whatsoever. It's crazy. They want a man advantage, just go away.
I would have thought, and that's what I was going to ask you, that Mauricio Pochettino's message to his players at half-time is surely calm down. I mean, they're making a big thing of shushing the crowd. When the goal was disallowed, they were shushing the crowd, and they're getting carried away for something when they have the man advantage.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like I said, I'm saying to John here, saying, what is Colwell doing? Why is he even involved? I mean, they've got the advantage. Just walk away. Instead, he has to actually be dragged away by his teammates.
John, do you just want to give us the details of the first half again? That started an hour ago.
I know. I'm just the goal on 6 minutes, the Tottenham goal. I mean, that seems an absolute different game away. Kulusevski on the right of the area after 6 minutes. Big deflection off Colwell. Wrong-footed Sanchez and just rolled in for 1-0. Johnson then to Son. Son thought he'd scored. That was offside, disallowed. Vicario then denied Jackson. Sterling thought it equalised. VAR looked at it. Handball. Caicedo 20-yarder, bottom left-hand corner. Disallowed for offside. Romero challenging the build-up to that on Fernandes. Studs up, in he went. He went off for a red card. Cole Palmer scored the penalty 1-1 off the post. Then we had Sterling to Jackson. He put it in. Sterling was offside. And we've had the injuries. Maddison's gone off with an ankle injury. And also Mickey van der Ven then with a hamstring problem as well. Wow, what a half, 1-1.
Back with John and Mark. You can watch us on the iPlayer, on the BBC Sport website and app. We're on BBC Sounds and on 5 Live as well. Steph Horton, Chris Sutton and Rory Smith on the Monday Night Club this evening. It is exactly 9 o'clock. Dan Morsley has the news.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The UN Secretary-General has described Gaza as a graveyard for children. Antonio Guterres was speaking as he launched an appeal for $1.2 billion to help Palestinian civilians. Well, Hamas health officials say more than 10,000 people have now been killed in Gaza since the conflict began, with a further 2,100 more missing. Israel's army insists it's operating within international law as it responds to Hamas's 7th of October attacks, which killed 1,400 people in Israel. The organisers of a pro-Palestinian rally in London on Saturday have been urged to consider postponing the march over Armistice weekend. Senior Metropolitan Police officers have said they're concerned about criminals by breakaway groups. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has given details of an attack in which he says his army destroyed a Russian missile ship in the Black Sea. He said it was hit on Saturday in the Kerch shipyard in Russian-occupied Crimea. And Donald Trump has repeatedly clashed with the judge overseeing his civil fraud trial in New York. The former US president was warned to answer the questions put to him and not to treat his court appearance like a political rally. Speaking outside court in the last few minutes after testifying for around 4 hours, Mr. Trump called the trial a scam and said it was a very sad day for America.
This is 5 Live Sport, the Monday Night Club with Mark Chapman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Good to talk about FA Cup first round weekend next on the Monday Night Club with Steph and Rory and Chris. Some great stories around Aldershot at one stage being 7-0 up away at Swindon. They won 7-4 eventually, first non-league side ever to score 7 against a Football League side in an FA Cup match. We saw Ramsgate of the 8th tier reach the second round for the first time in their club history, beating Woking of the National League. Cray Valley Paper Mills yesterday drew at Charlton. Cray Valley also 8th tier. And we also had Slough Town player manager Scott Davis scoring a free kick in earning a replay against Grimsby. Scott is with us now. Can I just say thank you very much for your patience, because I think you were booked at about 20 to 9 and you've been waiting, but it's taken a while to get here, so thank you.
That's all right. I quite enjoyed it. I was watching the Tottenham game and I was getting stressed as a Tottenham fan, so I was watching on Sky Go. I was about a minute behind you guys, so you gave me the running commentary in the end.
They've got, well, actually, from your managerial perspective, they've got a job on their hands now, haven't they, with 10 men, that central defensive partnership and the high line that they're playing?
You know what? I think with Romero, you always have a job on your hands with his discipline. He just plays on the edge and he's either brilliant or an absolute nightmare. I love him personally, but trying to control him, I think you actually lose some of the player. If you take that sort of aggressiveness away, you probably lose a bit of the player. So, yeah, it's difficult to kind of manage.
Tell me about how difficult being, before we come on to your goal, and we will come on to your goal, but just how difficult being a player manager is, because it felt for a while that we had a few player managers actually within the system. Now, maybe lower down there are still some more, but it feels like there aren't as many as there used to be.
Yeah, I don't think there is, to be honest. I believe that I'm the highest player manager, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's an achievement or what, or if I'm crazy. So I don't think there's anyone that does it in the National League, and there's certainly not anyone that does it in the Football League. So I'd never planned to do it. I was captain lab and the previous managers resigned. The board of directors offered me the job on the spot about a week later. And I didn't know what to say, I didn't know what to do. I had no previous experience of it. And then I spoke to an ex-manager of mine, Brian McDermott, and he just said to me, "Do you know what, Scott, give it a go." He said, "You've got nothing to lose," and I took the job a year ago and I've absolutely loved every second of it.
So when you were captain, were you taking free kicks, or have you only taken free kicks since you became the manager?
The old management team didn't let me take them. They've actually been texting me in the last few weeks saying, "Why did you not do that for us?" And I said, "You didn't let me take them." So I've always taken them throughout my career, but this is the first club I've never taken set pieces until I put myself in charge.
How much are you enjoying this challenge then of doing both?
Yeah, it's multitasking. Apparently something that men can't do, but I can do it on a Saturday at 3 o'clock. So my wife tells me that I can't, but it's chaotic at times. I think the one thing is that when we're winning, it's easy. Everything's plain sailing. But when you're losing or you're drawing in a game and you might be under the cosh, there's a million and one things going through your mind. You might have 1,000 fans watching, and you feel like all eyes are on you, waiting for you to do something. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. But it's definitely worse losing as a manager rather than just as a player, that's for sure.
Do you carry it home with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I do. I sometimes have to cancel dinner, cancel nights out because I take the weight of the world on my shoulders. But I think that's a good thing. It shows that you care, even though it's part-time, it's semi-professional. It's definitely something that I take seriously, and it's compulsive. Once you get in that dugout, or if you're playing and you've got a lot more to lose, you definitely take it that little bit more seriously.
I mean, for people that don't know, I mean, you've had a tough career, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been chaotic. It's definitely not been a quiet one.
20 clubs?
Well, if you count a couple of clubs that I'm on loan to for a game here and there, I think it's about 20. There's a few that I'd quite like to delete off my Wikipedia, just to make it look a little bit better. But yeah, no, it's been carnage, to be honest. I've been through a lot in my career. I dropped out of the game at 26 years old for various different reasons with gambling and things like that. And now find myself going around to football clubs talking about my experiences. So that's my day-to-day job, which is great. It keeps me involved in the game. So
I don't mean this as a trite question then. So when you do lose, can you put it into some perspective because of what else you've been through with gambling addiction?
Yeah, I think so. In 2015, I was in a bit of a dark place. I don't want to sort of get too down about it. I don't want to make it seem depressing, because it's certainly not that.
No, but it's important.
Yeah, no, it's all in the past now, and I think I've learned to deal with life's miseries as such. Football and losing a game of football is not the end of the world. It might feel like it for an hour or so, but I'm a lot better now when I get up on a Sunday morning if we've lost. But back in the day, I didn't really care about my football, and that's crazy to say it as a professional footballer. It was just a job that earned me a good salary and allowed me to do what I wanted to do off the pitch.
Do you think, I'll come on to Chris's experiences here, when you look at your players now at Slough Town, and maybe even what you've experienced lower down the leagues when you look at other players, do you think the support systems are in place more for young players, or do you still think it's that there is a vulnerability to young men when they get signing on fees, for example?
There's always going to be a vulnerability because of the amount of money in which people are earning, and we can never stem the flow of gambling. I think it's always going to be something that's in society. I think the education now is a lot greater than what it was. I never had anyone come and tell me about gambling addiction and what it can do to you. I thought it was something to pass the time of day. It started out as a little bit of fun, it turned into a problem, and then in the latter days it turned into an addiction. So I see 3,500 players a year now with my colleagues travelling around the country. We go to different countries, Belgium, I've done 24 clubs out there. We've broken into the MLS as well. So we're trying to do as much as we can just to offer a service of advice and treatment through the PFA, should anyone need it.
Chris? You've been in, you've been in similar situations.
Yeah, when I was young, I think that football essentially is a working class sport, and there's a lot of players who when they're younger, sort of start to earn good wages, and I think it's really heartening to hear Scott say about the support mechanism is far better now, certainly than it was sort of back in the day. I mean, I got sucked into gambling when I was younger at Norwich City, and then I went to Blackburn Rovers, and I was earning really good money, and the stakes went up. We used to play brag on the bus and what have you. And I wasn't brought up from a wealthy background. My dad was a teacher, and what have you. But I actually felt physically sick because the stakes used to go up to like £250 blind, and it was at that point where it used to go into a cash point, and that was the maximum amount you could draw out a day. I don't know whether you can remember that far back, Mark, but and actually, I just felt physically sick. So that actually was a sort of turning point for myself, where I thought, I'm not going to do this. I didn't enjoy it, but I certainly think when I was younger, there was no support mechanism, and it was, as a young gullible teenager, or in my early 20s, I can really see how a lot of players got sucked in, and it was pretty much rife throughout the game, really. And it is good to see now that there is support there, but we can't get away from the fact there is still a massive problem within the game.
Yeah, it's still there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive for sure. I think it's never going to go away. They go hand in hand, similar with horse racing and betting. They can't live without each other. So I think football over the last few years has certainly been more aware of accumulators and things like that. When I was younger, not all of my mates bet on accumulators and put football bets on. But now the done thing is to have a pint and put a bet on the football when you go and watch it. So when you're in the pubs, I sort of spot people that are on their phones placing bets all the time. So yeah, it's certainly something that we're not going to get away from anytime soon.
Do you know what? I went to an actual game, not just in the pub, a couple of weeks ago, and a National League game. And the guy who was the other side of the pillar spent the whole of the second half on his I don't know which bookmaker it was, on his app, looking at his accumulator rather than watching
for a cash out.
For a cash out, yeah, looking for a cash out rather than watching the game in front of me. And I mean, that's happening as well, I would say, Rory. People are going to games and there's a game in front of them, but they're actually monitoring everything else. But as Steph says, because of the cash out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a gambler at all, so this kind of a lot of the terminology is alien to me. I think that football has done very little to analyse its relationship with gambling. Scott mentions horse racing. Horse racing is a thing that exists for gambling. That's why. I mean, I presume maybe after thousands of years ago, maybe people wanted to see who the fastest horse was. But I mean, those two things are completely symbiotic. Football has encouraged its relationship with gambling in the last 20, 30 years. You cannot move for gambling adverts on billboards, on TV, on commercial radio, on podcasts, on whatever it might be, on shirt fronts. They're taking money from I might get the phrase on the white collar gambling firms in Asia that are illegal in Asia, but they've got sort of fronts here, and those are being waved through as shirt sleeve sponsors and stuff. Football is not questioning that relationship in the slightest, despite the damage that it does to fans. For players, and this I wanted to ask Scott, are you warning them of the dangers when you go into clubs? Are you talking to risks, potential punishments? How do you begin to combat it? Because ultimately you do have young men, the steady supply of reasonable money, even in, the players in Belgium won't be paid fortunes, but they'll be paid decent money, and quite a lot of time on their hands, which strikes me as being the other major issue. That's the kind of cocktail that is so toxic.
Yeah, the way in which we describe it is that I go in and I tell my lived experience story of some of the things that I got up to, some of the things that I wasn't proud of, and then we run through some education slides and some stats. And I think the stats are what hit home with players. When you actually give them the truth, it kind of shocks them and it makes them think. So they go away, and I sometimes get a message on Twitter or Instagram saying, Scott, you came into the club yesterday. I really could do with a chat about my relationship with gambling. And for me, in the weirdest of ways, it's really satisfying that I'm able to help. And I don't think that helps there unless someone goes and broaches the conversation. I never had it as a young player. I wish I did. I think the older players were sort of the ones that led by example when I was coming through, and they weren't good examples. So it was really, really difficult to try and follow your own path, if that makes sense, and do the right thing.
I always feel slightly guilty and intrusive on these kind of things, because you've had a brilliant weekend. You scored the free kick. You've got Grimsby back for a replay, and yet we're also talking about this. Is it a good thing that we talk about this, or sometimes do you think I'd just like to talk about the good stuff?
No, I really don't mind it.
Okay.
I actually find it quite therapeutic. It's probably my best medicine. I don't go to Gamblers Anonymous. I don't sit down with psychologists or psychiatrists. and talk about my past. So talking about gambling and what I do for work keeps me on the straight and narrow. So in the weirdest of ways, yet again, it's actually quite a nice relief. So yeah, I have no issues with it at all. I think it's a good thing that we can talk about it so openly.
It probably is. I mean, we talk about how it affects you with a defeat because of everything else that has happened to you. It probably makes you a better man manager of your players because you know the highs and lows that they may be going through.
Yeah, I think I'm very good at spotting changes in characteristics for sure. If any of the young lads come in and they're quite reserved or quiet, I'm the type of person that will get them in a headlock and drag them out and say, right, talk to me, what's going on in your life? And there was one lad last year that broke up with his girlfriend. He came into the change room and he sort of didn't go round and spud everyone and nudge everyone and just sat down by his peg. So I said to him, come and have a chat with me. And I said, what's going on? He said, no, nothing. Long story short, he'd broken up with his girlfriend. It wasn't the biggest problem in his world, in my eyes. It wasn't the biggest problem to me. But I wanted to help him know about it because a problem so small can obviously get bigger and more of an issue. And the young lads don't feel like they can talk. But I try and be a father figure, role model to some of these young players.
Back to the football then. You got a good chance in the replay?
Yeah, we'll give it a good go for sure. Yeah, I think we held we were very good yesterday in terms, so we gave a good account of ourselves. I thought we should have been 2-3-0 at half time, which is a disappointing thing. We're getting a lot of credit for keeping a League 2 team to a draw, but I was gutted. People were giving us a lot of plaudits, and I thought to myself, is that the opportunity gone? But everyone wants to go to Grimsby on a Tuesday night. It'd be nice up there, so I'll enjoy it.
I mean, I don't want to do the stereotype thing, but you will get good fish and chips, right? You will. I mean, I don't want to go down that, but they are proud of their fish and chips.
Yeah, I've only played there once before, and we had fish and chips, but our coach actually got smashed as well. So it was a bit of a learning curve. So yeah, I haven't been back since, but their fans were brilliant yesterday, and they'll cause a good racket when we go up. So I'm looking forward to it.
Rory?
Stuart, I just wanted to say, how many of your players think they should be on free kicks?
Probably 4 or 5.
Right.
We'll have to obviously have a discussion about that, but at the moment I'm on the next one. If you score, you always get the next one. Right. Chris knows that, Steph will know that if you score, no one can come near you for another couple of games for sure.
And what's the overall plan? I often, when we do early rounds of the FA Cup and you talk to clubs in the non-league, what the eventual plan is, because at times it's not as simple as, we want to be in the Football League in 5 years, because there are other things that matter, whether that be the community aspect, the pitch that they're playing on, how much they make. We talked about gambling, but for lower league clubs below National League, you can still have a beer watching the game. So actually, when you go up to the National, you lose quite a big revenue source because people can't have a beer whilst watching the game. So the obvious answer isn't always to get into the Football League. I don't know what your targets are.
Yeah, my main concern right now is trying to get players off work for next Tuesday when we travel up to Grimsby, because that's a nightmare.
Do you have to ring up every player's boss?
I've done a poll in the WhatsApp group to see if everyone's available for next week and how they're planning on getting there. So we've got a coach trip at the moment. We've got a possible training journey. But some people are really struggling to get off work. So that's how chaotic and crazy it is. But in terms of our plans, we've got new owners that have come in the last sort of year, and I've been working closely with them. And as a young manager, it's so refreshing that they let me just crack on and manage. So I'm going to make mistakes. I'm still learning. But they've got so many good ideas. We have got a plan that we haven't publicised. We want to try and finish as high as we can in the league. The aim is to get to the first round of the FA Cup this year, and we've done that. So we've ticked a couple of boxes so far, but if we can get to the second round, it'll be even better. And then a draw to United awaits.
If you are struggling, by the way, if you need an ageing striker, I'm more than happy to give him the night off anytime.
To be fair, we could do with a target, man. So yeah, we've swing balls in the box, but there's no one getting on the end of it at the moment.
I was more than a target, man.
No. I had you in my sticker book, so I can remember those. There was plenty going around. I had a few swaps.
Do you want to swap Chris Sutton? No, you're all right. You keep it. You're fine. We're fine. Lovely to have you on. Thank you very much, Scott. Wish you well in the replay. Thanks for talking so honestly as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Just quickly, Mark, on sort of managers who sort of do their own thing. Will Fox, my mate, he was manager of Montserrat, and he called himself up 2 years later to make his international debut.
All right. Was that whilst you were still clay pigeon shooting with him? Because that was that big story. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
He gave an interview with the Mirror where he said he used to go clay pigeon shooting with you, and you'd never heard of that.
Never done that.
They're back underway in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Second half has begun, and so far I don't think you had a stoppage, John.
No, all fairly uneventful. Tottenham won, Chelsea won. We've played 50 minutes to the game, 5 minutes in the second half. Chelsea made a change at half time. Levi Colwill went off, Mark Cucurella has come on. One chance for Chelsea in the second half, and they are dominating possession now. Cole Palmer on the edge of the penalty area, wide of the left-hand post, but Mark Schwarzer, should he have gone to his right? Reece James unmarked.
Yeah, he should have. He should have tucked it, laid it off to the right-hand side. Reece James was making an overlapping run. Instead, he goes for himself, and actually was quite a bit off target. But for Spurs at the moment, it's a little bit sitting deeper, back to the wall. They're still trying to play out. Chelsea are playing very high up and putting under a lot of pressure.
Chelsea have a free kick here on the left-hand side. 59 minutes the first half was. Let's see what we get in the second. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1.
Thank you very much. We'll be on until that game finishes. Just talking about the gambling then with Scott. As the women's game develops and more money comes into the women's game, it will be something that needs to have an eye kept on it with the women as well.
Yeah, of course, and I think what Scott is doing in that bit where he's saying about making people aware that what he's been through, and I think as a current player and players that are grown up into a environment, especially for women, in terms of the way that our game has developed, there's a lot more money involved, and I think for women to be aware of what is right and what is wrong and how you can cope, and maybe having someone to be able to speak about. I know that we speak about males not potentially speaking out, but the girls are exactly the same with their problems, and you're probably thinking, oh, girls chat all the time and whatever it might be, but at the same time, when I think it gets to something that's quite personal, I think it is good to have outreaches such as the PFA or the things that Scott are doing. We've had a lot of people that come into our club and kind of make people aware of that, which is great, and I think that's, as the game develops, we're going to have to really kind of make sure that people know who they need to speak to and what is right and what is wrong.
I mean, dressing room dynamics can be the same in women's sport as in men's sport. There can still be intimidating places for a younger woman to go if there are more recognisable, more famous names within that dressing room. I mean, that's exactly the same.
Yeah, and that's exactly what probably happens now. I think even in and around the building, I can only speak for my club, Manchester City, in and around the building, you see young girls that come up and train, and you can kind of see that they are a little bit starstruck, and there's a little bit of like, oh my god, there's Chloe Kelly who scored the winner for England the Euros, or Lauren Hemp, and those are players that they've looked up to, so of course it can be a bit intimidating, and I think the environment that we create is for them young girls and for us to be able to win. But I totally understand that a football dressing room is a football dressing room, and you can be influenced in different directions. And
are they welcoming in that sense? Because Micah would often tell us here that whenever somebody new or young or a trialist came into Manchester City, he used to intimidate them so that they didn't take his place.
I mean, yeah, maybe I should do that tactic, to be honest, instead of being so welcoming and making people feel at home at Manchester. But no, I think, to be honest, I think the girls are great. Of course, you have a little bit of a laugh with them, and you kind of see what the personality is about, but ultimately you want them to do well as possible, and it brings competition as well. As
far as City are concerned, Chelsea are top of the Women's Super League with 13, City have 10, Tottenham have 10, Liverpool have 10, Arsenal have 10, and Manchester United have 9. I mean, this is a terrible link, this. Speaking of 9, John Southall.
Tottenham have 9 men on the pitch. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1. Destiny Udogie has been sent off for a second yellow card. It was a rash challenge, diving in on Raheem Sterling, and another defender leaves, and Tottenham, Mark Schwarzer, are down to 9 men. Looking at this challenge again now.
Yeah, Doug, he doesn't need to. I mean, Sterling's going away from the play. He's just inexperienced, rush of blood. He knows he's on a yellow. The minute he makes the challenge and gets it wrong, he's got his hands on his head. He knows he's going to go.
So they've lost Maddison, Romero, Mickey van der Ven, and now Destiny Udogie. Tottenham. They're down to 9 men. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1.
Why has he done that, Mark?
I think it's just a rush of blood. I think he feels, he must believe he's going to get it. But Sterling obviously is very rapid and gets to it just ahead of him. And like I said, the minute he slides in, he realises he's in trouble.
Chris?
It is just.
Oh, go on, you go, John.
Oh, Jackson, but he must have been about 2 yards out, Jackson, with a downward header cleared off the line onto the roof of the net. It was Hotspur, I think, with the clearance. Here we go, Mark Schwarzer. Let's see this again. Crosses over, Jackson into the ground. Oh, I mean, an unbelievable clearance on the line.
I mean, Jackson, I don't know what he's doing there. Jackson, I mean, he's got to just throw himself at it. I mean, just to almost nudge his forehead. Great last-ditch defending by Højbjerg.
It's not a great header, that. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1.
That's a great clearance and a terrible header, Steph, isn't it?
I think that's what we were speaking about at the start of the programme, is just if that's a Haaland or someone else, that's in the back of the net.
If you are on a yellow, it's soft, Chris, isn't it? But if you are on a yellow, you don't make that tackle.
Honestly, it is such a stupid thing to do. It's just being thick, that is, in the nicest possible way. What is he thinking of? Exactly what you say. You're on a yellow card, okay? Your team's already down to 10 men. What are you, what do you need? What do you think? What do you need to think? And as soon as you sort of throw yourself into a challenge like that, if you're not 100% certain that you're going to win the ball, you can't do it. That is, that's irresponsible, and he's totally let his team down there. I mean, he has. That's just a really stupid thing to do. He'll know that himself. But he'll be sitting in the dressing room, a lonely guy now, thinking, what was the thing?
Well, he won't, because he'll have Romero with him.
Yeah, Romero's in there as well. Yeah.
If he. But the thing is, Ashley Young got sent off for a second yellow in a game. Was that in the derby? In the derby. Yeah. And Stephen Warnock was with us and said, if you have a player that's about to go past you and you're on a yellow, what do you do? Because your instinct is to make a challenge for the ball. And he said, well, you just got to let them go past you. But that's easier said than done.
I think in that moment, but that's where you have people around you, just making sure that you're reminded of that. And that's where... I'm just wondering if they're going to score here.
Hang on, let's go back. John?
Tottenham 1, Chelsea 1. Chelsea, though, should be ahead. A really good double save by the goalkeeper, and the flag was up as well, Mark Schwarzer.
I mean, it's like, it was tight. It was very tight at the time when he gets played through. You can see he's offside by a bit, and they'd let it play go on. And Vicario's made two really good saves. First one with his left foot, stretches, makes himself really big. And then the follow-up from Modric does very, very well.
But it's two great chances. I know the flag was up there, but two great chances for Jackson in the last 5 minutes of the game, and that has been the issue all season. Scoring the goals. Surely, against 9 men, Chelsea are going to win this.
Can I just say, Mark, it's incredible that Tottenham are still, just watching on the monitor, they're actually trying to press the game. Yeah. They're playing high. They're down to 9 men. Well, this is nuts.
I tell you what, the other thing is, he wouldn't have known this at the time, Højbjerg, that Jackson was offside, but he had a real nibble at him, which wasn't going for the ball. And I mean, if he'd have gone down, they'd have checked that. Anyhow, back to the tackle.
I think with Udogie as well, I think they're so ingrained, this Tottenham side, just to press and to tackle and to be aggressive. I think sometimes as a player, it's quite hard to get in that mindset, but you must know that you're on a yellow card and your team's already down to 10 players.
Can I have something that might sound really stupid to Steph?
This will be good.
Because Chris will laugh, and Chappers, because he's scared of Chris, will laugh as well. Do you not think that Udogie probably just thought he could get the ball?
I do, but
when you're making that tackle, do you not just think you can get the ball? Is that not why we ascribe loads of kind of well, Chris called him thick, but in a nice way, which is lovely. But you sort of ascribe all these emotions, but basically he probably just thinks he can get the ball.
Yeah, I do think he can get the ball, but I think you just can't go to ground when you're on a yellow. I think for me, even though you think you've just got to accept that Sterling's getting that ball, and I think it is probably who you're playing against as well. You know how quick he is, so I think it's kind of like that understanding of, one, I need to be disciplined, but I think it is hard as a player sometimes to kind of get out of that mindset of what Tottenham are. Like, they're playing with 9 players and now they're trying to press from the front, they're leaving gaps everywhere, but they don't know anything else.
You have to be 100% certain.
But you never are you? But you
never are.
You sort of,
well, you know,
it's assessing. It's assessing the situation, and you speak for yourself and your pub level. I think.
Yeah, but the thing is, Chris, you laugh about mine and Chappers' pub level. But the principle is the same. If you go into a tackle, you judge it as you think you can get the ball. You might be completely deluded at our level, but you do think you can get the ball. That's why you do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother.
Also, my favourite tackles were when it was probably 30-70 against.
Yeah.
Which I think that one was.
But anyhow, back to the Women's Super League table. So Chelsea 13, City 10, Tottenham 10, Liverpool 10, Arsenal 10, Manchester United 9. City lost at Arsenal. You lost at Arsenal yesterday, step by 2-1. Given the nature of the table, is that a missed opportunity? Because I'm guessing all the teams chasing are not going to want Chelsea to get a lead.
No, I think from our point of view, I think in terms of performance yesterday, I think we definitely didn't deserve to lose. I think once we got that goal back, we obviously saved a penalty as well, and you get a goal back and the momentum's with us and we're trying to push for a goal, and maybe in hindsight would we probably have settled with a point. Maybe that is the way to maybe go in this league, is we're very, very good at home, but for us it was more when we were away to the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, it's maybe making sure that we do get some sort of result. But like I said, it's in your nature to want to win all the time, and unfortunately our keeper did make an error to make it 2-1. But yeah, I mean, that table just shows the quality that we've got in the WSL, and for us it's now about not slipping up anymore.
And also, I mean, last season the title went to the final day, so it wasn't like there wasn't a close finish last year. But with Tottenham up there, with Liverpool up there, Leicester are down in 7th. They had a great start and have just wobbled recently. Are there more teams now? I mean, Aston Villa are falling off a cliff at the moment compared to last season, and they're bottom. But other teams are coming through. Is the talent spread more evenly?
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of clubs recruiting and bringing in players from, whether that's bringing young English players through or players coming from abroad to want to play in our league. That was why I was interested in terms of the American girls, because a lot more American girls are coming over to play in Europe, and a lot more to the WSL because of the reason in terms of it's really competitive. We're playing a lot of football and we're playing at a lot of good stadiums, which it attracts them players to play under good managers. So I think that spread of players is definitely improved over this last season. And I mean, you look at Aston Villa, and nobody would have ever predicted that they would be at the bottom of the league and not win a game yet because of the season they had last season. And that just shows in terms of the competition, and you have to win your football games when it comes to a Saturday or a Sunday.
Rory, are you coming in?
No, I think it's interesting, as you say, that the spread does seem to have kind of branched out to Spurs and Liverpool, I guess, particularly with a nod to Leicester. I think the sense that Europe is now the kind of centre of women's football is, I mean, yeah, Meg mentioned that kind of they're having that conversation in the States at the moment about where they fit into the landscape. But if you're looking at the US national team, surely the sensible thing to do now for a lot of those players, maybe not the year before experience in Europe, and if you come into Europe, unless you go into one of the big 3-4 continental clubs, then the WSL is the obvious place to go, because that is where that does seem to be the cutting edge now.
Yeah, I agree, and I think obviously that pull of Champions League as well, that's massive now that the women's structure has gone into group stages and it's not just knockouts. That's an opportunity for players to be continually be playing at the highest level, and and I think it is good for the league, because I think fans don't want to come and watch a 8-9-0 win, that's what it was 5-6 years ago. You could predict results, whereas now it is a lot more exciting, and the football is generally a lot better.
And we're getting arguments between managers and fourth officials. Do you want
I knew
one?
this was going to come up.
Do you want one on it?
Obviously, I've seen Gareth.
See, I'll read the quote. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll
you
read
go
the quote
first.
and then So, Manchester City manager Gareth Taylor was asked about Jonas Eidevall's behaviour. He said, "I think it was over the top, unnecessary. It's a one-off fine, but it's constant all the time. I think that is when it becomes a problem." I had a situation against Chelsea earlier in the season where I reacted to the fourth official in a way that I shouldn't have, and I received a yellow card. I deserved it. We've been told in pre-season it was going to happen. It needs to happen because I think it's just not acceptable. He'd said that Eidevall was bullying the fourth official.
Obviously,
is it getting tetchier and tetchier?
No, it really is, and I think that's because these games mean so much, and it's no different in men's football. I think obviously, and because we've only got 12 teams in our league, obviously the fine margins is we have a lot less games to kind of slip up in comparison to, say, for example, the Premier League. But yeah, I mean, yesterday was quite eventful for sitting on the bench and watching, and I think Gareth and Jonas, I mean, obviously I did a lot of work with Jonas for BBC of the World Cup, and he is a personality, and he's so passionate for his team, and so is Gareth in terms of they both want to win.
Who was more in the wrong, Steph?
You are a horrible man at times.
I would say maybe bullying is a really strong word, to be honest. I think, I do agree in terms of there was a lot of chatting to the fourth official, and I think it does get to a point where it's like, it's not going to change anything the referee does or what this fourth official is going to do in terms of whose throw it is. Is it a free kick? Is it a yellow card? And I think we're just all sitting on the bench going, "Oh, come on, no, just shut up. Let's just all just watch the game. It's getting a bit boring now." But I think it's not just happened this game. It's probably been happening over a certain number of games when we've played Arsenal.
Thank you very much to Phil, who sent an email saying the interview with Scott was therapeutic for him. He said, "I've suffered addiction." He was superb. His contribution was therapeutic. Back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, John Southall.
What a save.
Cucurella almost finishing. Jackson dwelt on it far too long. It was a chance though for Cucurella, who missed a few last week against Brentford as well. I think he just stayed onside. He broke the high line, threw on goal, and another save by Vicario, who has been outstanding in this game.
Oh, he's been absolutely incredible. I tell you what, his high line he's played along with his team has been exceptional. He's read every through ball. That instance there, it looked like it was going to be beaten, but he threw himself at the ball. Didn't just make himself big, but he actually closed the angle down and threw himself right at the ball. It's a brilliant save.
Flag goes up and Tottenham will have a free kick. Vicario goes down, wastes a bit of time here probably as well. Can they break the 9 men down? That is the question for Chelsea at the moment. It's debatable. This is how they're playing, Mark, just to tell you how the 9 men are now playing. So Porro's on the right, Emerson's on the left, Dyer and Højbjerg are the centre halves. Then you've got Skip Bentancur and Basuma in the middle, and Son on his own up front. That is the 9 for Tottenham now. And there are 2 Tottenham players down on the floor.
If ever a man was playing sweeper keeper tonight, Mark, then it is the Tottenham goalkeeper.
He's played higher than I ever played my whole career over 20 years in one game. I tell you what, it's absolutely incredible, and he's been outstanding. I had my doubts about Vicario at the start of the season. I tell you what, today he has been incredible.
That was a really good save. Watching that one again, I think he took a bang on the chin as well.
Yeah. That's part of the job, isn't it? You have to take it on the chin every now and then.
Were those doubts just based on that first away game at Brentford, or were there a couple of other things?
Yeah, I saw pre-season as well, and I wasn't quite sure. And you know what? I tell you what, he's proven me wrong. He's been absolutely outstanding, and today is another outstanding, probably one of his best performances in a Tottenham shirt.
The other thing, this is the kind of game that's made for Højbjerg, isn't it? Who is so pumped up, partly through the clearance he made off the line, but he is here, there, and everywhere for this 60 minutes that he will have played.
And you were saying before, the high line that Tottenham are playing. So with Dyer and Højbjerg as centre-halves, they're playing a high line. They were on the halfway line when Chelsea were literally 15, 20 yards away in their own half. That's how high they're playing. And Chelsea at the moment, honestly, I said to John, they're a bit brain dead because they are offside so many times. They've just got to stay an extra yard, 2 yards onside. They've got 2 men advantage.
They brought on Mykhailo Mudryk as well and taken Fernandes off to try and get some joy down the wings.
How many changes have they made?
So they have made 2. They've only actually made 2. Cucurella and Mykhailo Mudryk has come on. Tottenham have used all 5, so if anybody goes off now for Tottenham, they're down to 8.
Well, because they were checking Vicario there, and then they did a concussion test, I think, on Vicario. But if he had been concussed, they would have been able to replace him, wouldn't they?
That is true, yeah. If the goalkeeper goes off with concussion, he would be, or any player, then they'd be replaced,
I mean, that's all this game needs now is Vicario to go off injured and Eric Dyer to go in goal for the last 20 minutes or something. That's about the only thing missing. Right, it's 1-1 there. It's the Monday Night Club. Steph Horton, Chris Sutton and Rory Smith are with us this evening. The producers just asked Rory the most Rory question possible. Would you rather talk about the Copa Libertadores or Sweden? And
both great subjects, chap.
I was told you wanted to go Copa Libertadores first of all.
Well, we can do Sweden in a line. Sweden always has an amazing title race, like the WSL, and it finishes this weekend. Malmo play Elfsborg. Accident of the season, accident of the calendar. They have to. Malmo have to beat Elfsborg to win the title. Malmo are second, Elfsborg are top. Perfect end to the season.
Malmo.
It's Malmö. It's at Malmo, yeah.
Right.
So it is perfectly put.
Mal what?
Malmö, if we're doing it properly.
And basically Elfsborg, I'm guessing.
I think it's just Elfsborg.
All right.
I've not explored that one.
Elfsborg just have to avoid defeat against Malmö.
Avoid defeat and they win the league, yeah.
Okay,
right. In 11 years. But the Libertadores was on Saturday night, and to be honest, Spurs-Chelsea are kind of taking the sting out of it. But the Libertadores was complete chaos on 120 minutes, as the Libertadores final always should be. Summed up by the fact that the guy who struck the winning goal got immediately sent off, which is what I want in any major final.
because of celebration?
Just he ran into the crowd. For leaving the pitch. Apparently, he didn't take his shirt off. Apparently, you're not allowed to leave the pitch to celebrate a goal, which is a rule that I would say is.
That's a long way, though, at the Maracanã, isn't it, to leave the pitch?
And he did leave the pitch on the opposite corner. He went the other way.
And this is a big story for the winners, isn't it?
Yeah, so Fluminense are, I think, the biggest Brazilian club never to have been South American champions. This was their first one, 60 years of trying, so huge for them, obviously. But the style in which they've done it, I think, is probably the most significant thing. Because their coach is a guy called Fernando Diniz, who you pronounce it in a different way, but I'm not going to do that because of Chris's mockery. But Diniz has kind of pioneered a style that he himself has described as anti-Guardiola. It's much more. It's less to do with dominating space and more basically to do with getting players around the ball as much as possible in this intricate, very Brazilian style, or that he believes is very Brazilian. And this was kind of the litmus test for it. You need to win stuff in football if your ideas are going to catch on. And now that he has ended Fluminense's wait for a Libertadores, there is a chance that his sort of philosophy, his school of thought will become slightly more popular. He has already been given the Brazil job, the national team job, on an interim basis until an Italian with an arched eyebrow takes over next summer, probably. But Diniz is the coming man in South America. It's the first time really Brazil's produced a coach that I think European clubs would look at with envious eyes for quite a while, which sounds like a strange thing to say, but Brazil doesn't really produce good coaches and certainly hasn't recently.
So how because there was a brilliant article on Sky Sports app about this. I think it was written by Adam about Diniz and the whole this theory of being the opposite of Pep Guardiola. But how is it?
That's a good. It's difficult to explain, I think. So basically, the way and Steph, I will bow to Steph for things that I say that are wrong. Basically, Guardiola's system is about occupying space. He wants players to occupy a position and to contort and change and expand and contract the space available on the pitch, whether when City have got the ball or not got the ball, depending on what he wants the attack or the defence to do. That you control the game by controlling space. That is basically how Guardiola thinks, I think, in layman's terms. Diniz's idea is basically the ball's the important bit.
Hold the thought, because it's going to take some explaining. And I'm guessing they're going to VAR check this. John Southall.
Yeah, they will do. It's Tottenham 1, Chelsea 2. They'll probably have a look and see if Sterling was offside on the right-hand side. He crossed for Jackson, and Jackson finished into the bottom left-hand corner. The Chelsea fans are celebrating, but they'll look at this one. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 2. Mark Schwarzer, what is your thought on this?
My first initial thoughts were that Sterling was offside. We'll have to see. I mean, the linesman kept his flag down. We'll see it on the replay. It was well worked in the end. I mean, Sterling's through down the right-hand side. We'll see it now on the replay. I think he's onside. My vision's not as good as it used to be.
He's onside. Yeah, he's onside, and Sterling just rolled it into the path of Jackson. He couldn't miss. He put it in, and the 9 men of Tottenham trail Chelsea now by 2-1.
At some point, Steph, the high line was going to do them.
I think as well they're running from deeper, so the high line is pretty ineffective. And when you've got the speed of Sterling, it's impossible as a defender because you're trying to travel backwards and he's already going forwards. But yeah, that was the only way they were going to score.
He kind of ran off skip, actually, didn't he? As you say, 5 yards further back.
And it's hard as well because you're probably expecting your centre half or your full back to accept the runner. But yeah, I mean, Tottenham have done really well to this point to be able to survive with 9 players anyway.
Oh my word! And only now have they brought up checking possible offside. And the first close-up, he's on. They've done that quick. Right, back to Rory explaining football in philosophy.
Yes, that makes it sound even more boring than it is, chappers. No, I think that what Diniz thinks is basically the ball is what matters. So the structure of the team should bend and shape itself around where the ball is. So he encourages players to get in close, to basically do all the stuff that you're told not to do as a footballer. You follow where the ball is. It's not quite school kids running around kind of chasing it like ducks or whatever, but there is an emphasis on getting as many bodies as possible to create overloads, little triangles. They told them stairs and ladders, I think, or stairs and doors in Portuguese. These little kind of interchanges of possession.
Is it stairs and ladders or stairs and doors?
I can't remember off the top of my head. It's one of
There's a big difference between a ladder and a door, though.
It certainly is, Chris. But stairs are definitely involved. Let me tell you, stairs are definitely involved. And I think that the intricacy of what they're doing is appeal to Brazilians because it reminds them of kind of João Benito and the Brazilian ideal of the way of playing. There's a lot of coaches in Brazil now who are Portuguese who say it's really difficult to the Brazilians to play in that kind of traditional way where the structure of the team is everything and no one leaves their post and everything has to be kind of accounted for. Brazilian players, according to people like Abel Ferreira, who's the Palmeiras coach, don't want to do that. They want to play in a much more free-form way. There is a possibility that Diniz has found a way of doing that within a modern kind of setting, which would be interesting. But the other thing is that's maybe broader than that is that everything that happens in football has an answer. Football is cyclical, so every trend that comes and pushes the game forward, someone always finds either some way of taking it on or an antidote to it. We saw that Guardiola himself was an antidote to the football of kind of the Mourinho era of the first decade of the 21st century. So there will be something that comes along that is whatever comes after Guardiola.
Back to Tottenham.
Eric Dyer has just put the ball in, top right, left-hand corner. But you know what's coming next?
Oh, John.
The flag is up. The flag is up, and they're going to have a look at it. Wow, here we go. We're having another look at it now. Eric Dyer on the back post. Well, Mark Schwarzer, what do we think now?
Well, it depends on who it's come off. I mean, I think it's come off Bentancur. What a finish, though, from Eric Dyer at the far post. We'll see now. I think it may have come off a cheap player last.
Brilliant finish.
Oh,
brilliant
what a finish
on the volley into the far corner. Fantastic. Now then, so another replay of that, just to see who that came off.
I mean, I think Bentancur gets the first header, but it looks like initially it comes off a Chelsea player last.
Come back to us, Mark. This could take a while.
Oh no, I'm
here we go. They've slowed it down. Is it Disassi? Does it come off Disassi? It's Bentancur and Disassi both going for him, and this is going to be difficult to try and fathom out who that came off last.
This is an easy one compared to what we've had tonight.
So the free kick was played in, but then there's a flick on, and it's between Bentancur and Disasi to see who has got the flick.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it comes off Bentancur first. Disasi's just behind him, and it may well come off him on the way through.
On our screen, they're zooming in and have managed to zoom in on the penalty spot rather than the ball.
Are they zooming in on the initial header where Dyer is onside from the initial?
Yeah, but you can't see the ball on what they've zoomed in on.
Yeah. Well, there's booing around the stadium as we wait. This could go on for a while. We've played 80 minutes of the game. Remember the first half.
If it hits Bentancur and then hits Disasi, that he's going to be off, isn't he? Because as soon as it hits Bentancur, he's...
Well, I think
is he on at the point it hits Bentancur, but then he's off? Sorry, the other way around.
I think Bentancur gets
off, isn't he?
He's off. I think
he's off.
I think Bentancur heads it, doesn't he? By the look of it, and Eric Dyer, I think, will be offside.
This angle, the way they're operating VAR, they're moving how he's off.
He's just off. He is just off. This is going to be given offside, isn't it? Eric Dyer's just scored the greatest goal of his life, and it's been disallowed. It's still Tottenham 1, Chelsea 2.
Although not as much as Lewis Dunk's finish. Did you see?
That was amazing.
I mean, if you have that disallowed, Chris, you are going to be fuming, aren't you?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, he's an incredible striker of a ball, isn't he, Lewis Dunk?
Yeah, I mean, just very unlucky. But the Diniz, by the way, just to finish with this, would he be able to implement what he's doing in Brazil then in Europe, bearing in mind everything that you've just said?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And that's what makes it that's interesting about the idea that he's working towards. It might be that if you put, it's an incredible achievement. They've got some really players, but they had their goal was 43. Herman County scored the first goal. Is 30. It's a Brazilian team. It's a team of kind of veterans, a couple of kids, and then a load of who've either tried, never been picked up by European clubs. If you gave him an elite team in Europe, maybe they'd be able to do it even better. There are as that piece by Adam Bates mentioned, there are other coaches in Europe who are kind of experimenting with similar stuff, and you wonder whether there will be something that comes along that moves football on or in a different direction to the kind of Guardiola school, and there is a possibility it will be Diniz, but he will need to achieve something even bigger than helping Fluminense win the first Libertadores to make that idea stick.
It's the Monday Night Club. We are watching Tottenham against Chelsea, where it's 9-man. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 2. Chris Sutton, Roy Smith and Steph Horton are with us this evening. What in this game, Chris, as well, there are times when Chelsea have the ball just inside their own half and Tottenham are only just inside their own half as well. Everything is being played within about 10 yards in the middle. They're so high.
It's nuts in many respects. I think Mark Schwarzer absolutely nailed it when he said it's about the Chelsea players just being patient and the timing of their runs as much as anything. And actually, Chelsea have been very, very wasteful because this has gone on for a long, long time now, against 9 men, and they haven't exploited Tottenham as they should have done. It's high risk from Postecoglou, but it's so fascinating to watch because I know Chelsea are ahead now, but that whole concept of when you only have 9 men, most teams would just camp, wouldn't they? Edge of the box, narrow up, make it difficult to play through. You cross the ball, we'll try and deal with it, and they go about it in a fascinating way.
It is interesting seeing how high they are, though, because your natural assumption is that they should sit back. But how many times do you see teams sit back and concede a goal because they're just inviting pressure? So they might as well do this. What this reminds me of, Chappers, do you remember, you may even have been there, it's not impossible, but there's a famous Kenny Dalglish miss at Old Trafford where Alan Hansen has the ball just inside the Liverpool half. United are lined up for reasons that I do not understand, entirely flat on the halfway line. Hansen chips it over and chases it himself, and then passes it sideways for Dalglish, who misses from a yard. But that's what Chelsea need to do. They need to get, while Spurs are kind of standing in a line on the halfway line, just chip it over them and run onto it yourself. That way you can't be offside, and it will catch them by surprise. That is the solution here.
There's I'm going to borrow a line from Victor in Mamma Mia 2, who gets asked to remember something from 25 years ago and says, "I'm a man in my 50s. I can't remember what I did last week, let alone something from 25 years ago." And I feel very much in that situation.
I'll find it for you.
Thank you very much. Let's just John Southall, how long have you got left there?
6 minutes left.
How long?
And 6 minutes on
Right.
the, or just under 5.5 minutes, and then whatever is added on. It certainly won't be 14 minutes we had in the first half, we hope.
All right then.
And also, just to clarify, we've had 5 disallowed goals in this match.
5 disallowed goals, 2 red cards.
2 red cards, a whole host of injuries to Tottenham players. Incredible.
Let's just touch on one of the stories from the Scottish Premiership today. Craig Levein back in management. I'm going to risk playing a 50-second clip of him and hope nothing happens at Tottenham. He's the new St Johnstone manager.
Latter spell at Hearts, trying to do 2 jobs at the same time is extremely difficult. So that's one thing I've learned. The reason that I've brought Andy with me is that he can take some of the load, mainly the sort of day-to-day coaching stuff, and give me a chance to spend what energy I have in the areas that are most important. When you look at the league table, we've got our main concern is to try and improve the situation there, and coming into management and sitting here talking about long term. I think those days have long gone. Yeah, I'm just looking at the short term at the minute. I can worry about the long term if we can manage to get the ship on the righted and sailing along. So that's what the intention is. That's what we're going to try and do.
Nothing's happened at something very nearly happened then. John Southall.
Oh my goodness, Tottenham 1, Chelsea 2. It was a free kick on the left-hand side for Tottenham. Brilliant ball whipped in, and Bentancur stooping at the far post. He got his head on it and it went wide. Oh, that's a big chance as well. It would have been a goal. He's onside. Oh, he is missed from about 4 yards out. I mean, he tries to head the ball. It's an awkward position in the end. Oh, well, what a chance for Tottenham. I tell you what, if Chelsea chuck this away, they'll never recover from this.
Well, that's a big statement.
Maybe they will.
The way that bounced, Mark, it's as if he wasn't quite sure what body part to get on it.
No, it was an awkward position, yeah. I mean, best off asking Chris what he would have done in that circumstances.
That'd be an interesting answer.
Yeah, he was sort of a little bit indecisive. He actually could have possibly gone with his chest, couldn't he, back across? But the pace of the ball, that was a difficult one for him.
So still 2-1 to Chelsea somehow. He's bringing Andy Kirk with him then, Chris, Craig Levein at St Johnstone. He's been out of management for 4 years. But it sounds like he's going to have an overview as well. And maybe given the predicament that they're in, St Johnstone are right to buck the trend of going for sort of rookie managers and go for somebody experienced.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last manager, Stephen McLean, I mean, he had a difficult start to the season and then basically just the other week blamed it all on the players, didn't take responsibility himself. And I always felt he was probably going to be a goner then. No, it's interesting going back to Craig Levein, who's had a pretty successful time as a manager. A couple of spells at Hearts. The second time round, quite convenient, where he was director of football and then gave himself the job. That was pretty interesting. But I actually think it's a pretty sort of sensible appointment in the fact that Craig Levein, knows Scottish football inside out. He knows all the teams in the league, every player up there, and he's he's a wily old fox. He always has that sort of tag which goes against him because of the way he set Scotland up. I think it was against the Czech Republic, wasn't it? Didn't play with the striker and what have you. That goes against him. But you look at his managerial career as a whole, and they want to, St Johnstone, they want to stay in the top flight in Scotland. So I think it's a pretty smart appointment. I mean, they have overachieved for years, not in recent years, but they had the Tommy Wright period where they can't remember how many years they finished in the top half of the table on a shoestring budget, and then Callum Davidson won a couple of cups, and then the last couple of seasons they've they've fallen away a little bit. But I think it's they've gone sort of an older, wiser guy. I think it's a smart appointment.
Yeah, I think if you're bottom, Steph, and have only just got your first win, that isn't the time to bring in a rookie, is it? And in fact, some of the tweets we've got, George, St Johnson, are all about being solid at the back. That's what Craig Levein gives you. Oliver, we need someone with his level of experience, someone who can really implement a clear strategy for the team to claw itself out of this sorry mess.
Yeah, I think you want stability and you want strong performances to kind of build on that win, but yeah, I think that change is probably necessary for someone that's experienced in that league to be able to provide that. And I mean, his record speaks for himself, and hopefully they can get off the bottom of that league.
Let's just go back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, John.
Yeah, Vicario is down. He collided with Mudryk. Mudryk got a yellow card for it. It looks like his right knee. He's been down for quite a long time here, Mark. So you might get Eric Dyer in goal after all here. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 2 still. We're just coming up to the 90th minute, and the board may well just be about to go up to tell us how many minutes we're going to have. It's going to be a fair amount, I think, as well in this second half. It's only 5. Is that 5 or is that 9? It's 9. It's 9 minutes. What time is it now? 10 o'clock. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 2.
We'll keep going then for another 10 minutes. You sense in this game, don't you, Rory, that